Joey Logano joins Elite Company, winning his second NASCAR Cup Series championship. And let's talk about what happened between Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain on one of those restarts. Let's talk about NASCAR's championship race in Phoenix. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert. Let's talk about NASCAR's championship race in Phoenix, where Joey Logano has won his second NASCAR Cup Series championship. Before we talk about the race, I do want to say, obviously everybody in the NASCAR community right now, including myself, is thinking about the family of Coy Gibbs, Joe and Ty. Today, everybody involved in the Joe Gibbs family. You know, I'm a Kyle Busch fan myself. So obviously I'm a Joe Gibbs fan that comes with that, so it definitely hits a little bit for me, and I think it hits all NASCAR fans today. We got the news right before the green flag of the race. Absolutely horrible news to hear. Definitely changed the tone, the mood going into the race. Definitely watched the race today with a heavy heart. So I do want to just put my thoughts out and prayers to everybody involved in the Joe Gibbs organization right now, Joe Gibbs Racing organization. Although we do have a Phoenix race to talk about, and I think we had a pretty good Phoenix race to talk about, so let's talk about it, right? Joey Logano, two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, joining Elite Company. Today's race did have a little bit of dirty air that played into effect. I know NASCAR is looking to help with that dirty air effect and the stalling out of cars going into 2023. But today I didn't think it was too bad. I think Logano had the fastest car. Maybe Elliott had something for him there at the end, but we really will never know, never be able to tell completely. Joey Logano definitely had a really fast car. Ryan Blaney might have been a little bit faster, but Ryan Blaney obviously not in the championship round. But let's talk about everything that happened. It was incredible. Joey Logano becomes a two-time NASCAR champion, joining the Elite Company. Like I said, this is a huge championship for Joey Logano. A great season for Logano. Started it out winning on the West Coast in Los Angeles at the Clash at the Coliseum. Actually won 3 races this year. Won Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago to punch him into this race. Won way earlier on in the spring at Darlington when him and William Byron got into it. And then, of course, won the inaugural race at St. Louis earlier in the spring as well, or the beginning of the summer as well this season. So a 4-win season for Joey Logano, plus that exhibition race, the Clash. Definitely a very successful season. I think his 2018 championship, he had 4 wins as well. So 2018 and 2022. By the way, the 22 car wins the championship in 2022. So congratulations to Joey Logano on a great championship. This ties Joey Logano, current NASCAR drivers, for the most championships with Kyle Busch. And if I look at just raw talent alone, pure NASCAR talent, not crew chiefs involved. I know everybody has a big role, but just raw racing talent alone, there are a few guys that come to mind, and I think the guys with the most championship right now certainly come to mind. Kyle Busch obviously has a ton of raw talent. Joey Logano with 2 championships obviously has a ton of raw talent. I think of those 2 guys, and I think it is fantastic that we have somebody, or 2 guys now with repeat championships. So 2 guys with 2 championships, and I think those are the 2 best that this sport has right now, or at least has had over the last few years. We have a couple of guys that could mix in there as far as, pure raw driver talent, Kyle Larson, even a few other guys. But as far as pure raw talent, and I've said this multiple times on this show, I look at Kyle Busch and Joey Logano as really talented race car drivers. You give them the team, you give them the crew chief, they can get it done. 2 championships for both of those guys now. But today it's all about Joey Logano after he won his second to tie for current active drivers most championships. So, and this is not it for Logano. He's got a lot of racing left to do. He's got a lot more race. I believe this is his 14th full-time season, but he's got a lot of racing to do. He's been competitive a ton. He's been in the Final Four a ton over the last few years since they implemented this system. Definitely don't count out Joey Logano for winning more NASCAR championships in the future. Was Joey Logano the best and most consistent driver this season? I don't know. He was definitely top 4. He obviously deserved to be in the championship race, I think. But there might have been a couple of guys a little bit more consistent than him this season throughout the year. But overall in the playoffs, he was great. And then he did a great job today holding off his teammate and, of course, holding off Ross Chastain, who was charging up there at the end to win his second NASCAR championship. So obviously congratulations to him. I do want to talk about the guys that lost this championship, because it is a Final Four. We had 1 champion. We had 3 guys in the Final Four today that did not win the championship, and I'm going to go through those guys in order. We have Ross Chastain, who ended up finishing 3rd today. Ross Chastain was trying to have a great race today. He was trying to find a way to get up through the field. I don't think he had a whole lot of speed at the beginning, but as we saw the sun go down, the shade cover up the front straightaway. We have that big front stretch grandstand, cover up the racetrack a little bit. It covers up a very large portion of the racetrack. Changing the track temperatures, racing the racetrack, like you heard the the NBC commentators use that word all day long, use that phrase all day long. I think Chastain's car was coming into him a little bit. Once he got in the clean air, once he got out of the traffic, he was running down Joey Logano really quickly, but it was too late at that point. I think it was like 12 laps to go. Did not have enough time to gain 2.5 seconds. And you had Joey Logano's teammate right behind him. It was setting up to be a pretty championship for Joey Logano as long as that thing went green, which it did. So Ross Chastain just could not quite catch him there at the end. Then, of course, we have Christopher Bell, who finished 10th today. Obviously, third out of the championship four. Disappointing for him. Had a terrible super long pit stop, a 19-second pit stop. His final pit stop was something went wrong with the handgun. I believe the crew member, the tire carrier or the tire changer's hand got stuck in the gun, in the lug nut, something like that. I don't know the entirety of that situation. I heard an interview from Adam Stevens. They said they'll look into it to see if they can prevent that from happening in the future. I heard that after the race. He said it's probably a broken hand, so obviously thinking about the pit crew member as well. Hope he is okay after that injury. Definitely a scary moment there on pit road, and I hate that for Christopher Bell. I don't know if Christopher Bell is going to be quite fast enough to pass him anyway. We saw those two racing there for a little bit on fresh tires, and Joey Logano excelled. Or on same lap tires or one lap different tires, and we saw Logano excel. So I don't think Christopher Bell was going to be able to get up there and pass him anyway, but you would at least like to have a shot, and Christopher Bell unfortunately didn't get a shot, but still a solid top 10 day and a good season for Christopher Bell. I don't think Christopher Bell, his third full-time season, I think this is his second full-time season with Joe Gibbs Racing. It's not a shame at all to finish third in points this season, and definitely a championship to come, I think. For the 20 team of Christopher Bell, as long as he stays with Adam Stevens and that crew, like he said in his post-race interview, he hopes he does. A strong and a dangerous crew right there, the 20 team is. So definitely watch those guys moving forward. And he's still young. Like I said, his third full-time season, I believe it is. So he's got a long ways to go and a lot more Final Fours and potential championships coming for Christopher Bell. So a great day for him. Let's talk about the incident with Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain, because that's really what defined Chase Elliott's championship. If there was one guy who was starting to get to Joey Logano there at the end of this race, when that sun started to go behind that grandstand a little bit more and more, covering the track up with shade, the front grandstand covering the track up with shade, Chase Elliott was getting there. He used a strategy move on pit road. He actually, in stage 2, used a strategy move to get one spot behind Joey Logano and passed him on a restart. It was on a restart, so I don't know if Logano would have been able to shoot right by him again. That is definitely possible, but we'll really never know. Elliott seemed to have a really fast car when he got farther out front. I don't think it was quite as fast as Joey Logano, but like I said, once again, you would have loved to have a shot to race for the championship. Unfortunately, you see it here, just gets turned. Yeah, I think the 9 team was blaming Ross Chastain, but I don't know if you can blame Ross Chastain here. Look, Elliott's trying to get everything he can here coming to the end of the race, and Chastain's trying to get everything he can. I don't know if you can really fault either one. It looked like Elliott might have came down on his nose just a little bit there. But that's still just a hard racing move. Kind of reminds me of what happened with Carl Edwards and Joey Logano in Miami for the championship. I believe that was back in 2016. That's just kind of what it reminds me of as a guy who's been watching for quite some time. So I don't know. I listened to Jeff Gordon's interview after the race. He said he feels like he's trying to be very respectable on the racetrack, and he felt like Chastain or other competitors are not showing that respect. And I totally understand where Chase Elliott's coming from, but I don't know. I think if you're in that situation, you can't expect somebody to give, and I get what Jeff Gordon and Chase Elliott are feeling in this situation, but you just can't expect give in this situation. And he didn't get wrecked. I mean, Chastain didn't flat out wreck him, but you have to expect a little bit less give in the future, and that might be something they'll have to talk to Chase Elliott about. Certainly, Chase Elliott, upsettingly, could have a lot more wins this season and potentially could have tried to fight Logano for a championship, but it was taken away in another incident where Chase Elliott ends up on the wrong side of it. So that's disappointing for the 9 team as well. I think he ended up finishing in the low 20s. So a terrible day today for Chase Elliott. Obviously, a great season, the most consistent driver all season, no doubt the championship favorite all season, no doubt. Playoffs started out, didn't look quite as good, didn't look quite as strong going into the playoffs. But still, nonetheless, a good season for Chase Elliott, and it's disappointing that he ends up finishing 4th in points after a 5-win season. Most of all drivers, even your champion Joey Logano, definitely disappointing for for those guys. Let's just roll through the top 10 just real quick. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. I talked about your champion, Joey Logano, 4th win of the season. This is his 31st career win. I believe this is his 3rd win at the Phoenix racetrack. His last one coming in 2020, I think, right before the lockdowns, I believe, was the last time Joey Logano won at Phoenix. We had Ryan Blaney. Like I said, I think Blaney was a little bit faster than Logano, but didn't want to ruffle him up. Didn't want to get in a battle with his teammate and allow Ross Chastain to get there. So Ryan Blaney kind of pulled to the side, let that Team Penske get that championship. That's a bit shame. I think Blaney was faster. I would have liked to seen him race it out a little bit, but still a great day for Ryan Blaney. Blaney does go this entire NASCAR season, by the way. Unfortunately for him, last year was his first multi-win season. This is the first time in a few years he goes winless. Ross Chastain obviously finished 3rd. Talked about him. Chase Briscoe was having a good run. He was the guy who won this race back in, I believe it was March at Phoenix. And he was really fast there as well, but kind of got out of the way of the championship guys at the end and kind of faded a little bit as well. Solid 4th place finish today for Chase Briscoe, who showed a ton of speed when these playoffs started. So even though he wasn't in it today, still showed a ton of speed. It'll be interesting to watch what he does next season if he can carry this speed over. Another one of those Stewart-Haas Fords, Kevin Harvick finishing 5th, so 2 of them in the top 5. Not a bad day for Ford, actually. Just realized 4 out of the top 5 were all Fords, and you throw Chastain in there. So, great day for Ford today at Phoenix. Kevin Harvick, NBC said it is an insane amount of top 10s in a row at Phoenix for Kevin Harvick. If you remember, there was a long stretch there where Kevin Harvick had this race won. I mean, you go into the weekend, if Kevin Harvick didn't win Phoenix, something was wrong. He won multiple races in a row at this racetrack. Kevin Harvick is still the king of Phoenix Raceway. There's a couple guys you can try to put in there and argue with it, like Logano, maybe even Kyle Busch, but I don't know. Kevin Harvick's still the king of Phoenix there, and a great top 5 for him today. So good way to end out a rough season for Kevin Harvick, a fairly rough season. William Byron ended up finishing 6th. We had Kyle Busch in his final race for Joe Gibbs Racing. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. He's actually the highest finishing Joe Gibbs Toyota today with that 7th place finish, ending out his 15-year career at Joe Gibbs Racing in the 18 Toyota. Right behind him is his teammate, Denny Hamlin, ended up finishing in the 8th position. Kyle Larson having a decent day, started out up front but faded a little bit, got a top 10 finishing night today, and then Christopher Bell, talked about him as well, ends up rounding out the top 10. Yeah, so obviously coming to the end of a NASCAR season, every NASCAR season we usually have to say goodbye to something or someone. In this case, we do have Greg Ives. This is his last race he will be a crew chief for Alex Bowman or for anybody. That those two have obviously split up. Greg Ives' last race was today. Unfortunately for him, probably could have got a top 10 today with that car. Just didn't work out. I don't know what was going on with Michael McDowell there, but just want to say a great career for Greg Ives. But I do want to talk about my guy, Kyle Busch. This is his last race with M&M's, Mars, Toyota, Joe Gibbs Racing, you name it, and it has been a great career for him over there. 56 of his 60 career wins came at Joe Gibbs Racing, and I hate to see it end this way. He teared up in his post-race interview on frontstretch.com a little bit. It might have teared up a little bit too. It was definitely a heartfelt moment, and I hate that ends, and it's been a big part of my life, a big part of my childhood, watching him race and win races and championships. And I'm glad that it's something I was able to enjoy. I'm glad I was able to see him race for Joe Gibbs Racing for such a long time, and that's obviously great to see. And a fantastic career over at Joe Gibbs Racing, but there is more racing to come from Kyle Busch, moving to RCR for 2023 to drive the number 8 Chevrolet. Still don't know what those sponsors are for sure yet, but I'm hoping a great season for Kyle Busch next year. Definitely looking forward to that 100%. And like I said, just ready to see what he can do next season. But that is it. That is all there is to talk about after NASCAR at Phoenix. After the 2022 NASCAR season, I do want to say this has been a great season. I've had probably more fun doing NASCAR race review videos ever this year than I ever have. I think the videos are high quality. I love doing this show every week. I can't wait to bring it back next year, and I'll still be here for the off season, so make sure you watch out for that. Going to do some, obviously, any breaking news, I'll do a video on that, and I'm going to try to do some videos on some Monday afternoons, so please keep an eye out for that as well. And I got to thank everybody who watches the show. You know, you don't know when you get a couple extra subscribers in a day, that can certainly change your whole day around. So it's certainly great to see that, and I thank everybody who does subscribe and watch the show and gives me some views. So like and subscribe if you like the video, obviously, and keep watching me for the off season, and I will be back and better than ever for the 2023 NASCAR season. It's going to be exciting. It's not long, just a few more months. When the spring starts to rear its head around the corner, we'll be getting ready for the Daytona 500. So appreciate it, and of course, Let's get rowdy.